This is To Help You Heal, and I'm your host, Marie Monville. We are going to spend 10 minutes talking about healing. What kind of healing do you need? Is it in your mindset? Is it emotional healing? Is it spiritual healing? You know, there's a lot of healing that we all need, and this is where you're going to find it every week, 10 minutes on Tuesday. I'm so glad you're spending this time with me. Today is October 1st, and this time of year for me always is a reflection point. You know, tomorrow, October 2nd, is the 18th anniversary of the Amish Schoolhouse shooting. And I think for me, you know, more than any other time of year, this is the time of year where I engage in that place of, you know, the stark difference between what my life was and what it became. But not only that, also the beauty of what it's become now. And so I want to take you through a bit of that journey, who I was before, who I became in the moments that day, and then what has happened since. Because, you know, I get the reality is that my story is different, and most people are not going to experience something like this. But we all experience pain and brokenness. We all walk through hard places. And I hope that my story and what I share with you today is an inspiration point for you, but not just an inspiration point. It becomes a place of a shift in belief that no matter what is going on in your life or in the life of someone you love, that there is beauty on the other side, that you're going to see it, that they're going to see it, you know, that all hope is not lost, even in the darkest moments. There truly is light still within us, still shining through the world, and we just have to purpose ourselves to look for it. You know, when I was growing up in Lancaster County, I was a very shy girl. I always say this when I'm speaking. If you would have told me that I would share, you know, with people that I don't know some of the most intimate details of my life, I would have said that you were crazy. I probably would have run as far away from that concept as possible because I wasn't someone that wanted attention. I didn't want to stand out. You know, I didn't want all the eyes on me, that kind of thing. And I think about who I thought I was back in those years growing up, and it's such a different person than the me that I've become. And I'm sure that's true for you in some ways. You know, how you saw yourself as a child is not quite how you see yourself anymore. The truth is that we grow a lot through the experience of our lives, both good and bad. But I think the ones that we recognize most is probably the change that comes on that hard path, that difficult journey, you know, that wilderness walk, as we're finding our way through circumstances that we had not envisioned for our life. When I was in high school, I met Charlie. We started dating and we got married after I graduated. You know, I thought that life was going to be this blank canvas and I could paint it any way I chose. I wanted two things out of life. I wanted to be a wife and I wanted to be a mom. And those were my great aspirations. You know, when I was in high school, all my teachers thought that I would go to college and they tried to convince me to go. But Charlie and I got married and we found out in that first year of marriage that we were expecting a child. I was so excited thinking, yes, everything is going exactly the way I want it. I had this very Hallmark expectation of life. You know, don't you just love a good Hallmark movie sometimes? It's this place where you can predict exactly what's going to happen. It goes the way you thought and it wraps up all neat and tidy in less than 2 hours, counting commercial breaks. And I think, you know, for me in that season of life, I thought life was going to look like that. But honestly, Hallmark has sold us a lie and life doesn't go that way. And I think when we're expecting it to, it can feel very disappointing. We can feel like our life is so different and why are these our circumstances? When, you know, we were going through this journey of expecting a child, it was such a season of joy and anticipation. But I started experiencing complications to the pregnancy around 20 weeks, and we lost our daughter at 26 weeks of pregnancy. She was born and died within 20 minutes in our arms. And, you know, for me, it was this place really of wrestling with God, of understanding that phrase on such a personal level, of trying to say, you know, God, why have you allowed me in this place? And what am I supposed to do with it? How am I supposed to get through this? And what am I supposed to find here? And, you know, it was a journey of learning to trust Him, of letting go of those places of control and being able to say, okay, I believe that you can do more with my life than what I see right now. But it was painful and it was hard and it didn't make sense to me. And I think, again, we all find ourselves in some of these truths, no matter what the circumstance is. And when you fast forward then to 2006, I had had three children, three wonderful children. By that point, they were 7, 5, and 18 months. And for me, I knew I was kind of living my dream. It was certainly not everything I had imagined before I had kids, certainly more difficult than I had envisioned, but I loved it. And I knew that God truly had answered the desire of my heart. And I also knew that there were times that Charlie was struggling with that loss. I mean, I would too. We would think about, what would life look like had she lived and how would the kids all interact and those normal things. But for me, I had found that place of healing with God and I did not know that He hadn't. So when you get to October 2nd, it was a beautiful sunny day. Couldn't have imagined, what was coming. We walked the kids to the bus stop that morning and kissed them and never thought that that would be the last time that they saw their dad. And, you can read about all of the things that happened inside the schoolhouse. I don't need to talk you through that. But for me, it was a place of devastation of this moment where everything that I thought was true about my life changed. And there was no going back for me. No way to go back to the life that I thought I had. And I remember, those places as I processed the day, thinking, how does it happen that you can get up one morning and life looks normal and reasonable? And by lunchtime, everything has changed and it's all outside of your control. There were so many variables I couldn't see my way through. How was I supposed to get through this on my own? How was I supposed to lead my kids through this? How is this supposed to be our lives every day forever? I remember those thoughts, but I also remember the way that I felt God close to me, the way that I sensed His strength and His presence. And I remember the choices that I made that day. And before that moment, I don't know that I would have identified that I had choices to make about life in all these hard places, but I saw it clearly that day. And I made a choice to believe that God could do more in my life than I could imagine. And so I asked Him to do that, to do whatever He could do with this. And, if you would have said to me, well, Marie, what do you think it is He can do with this? I don't know what I would have told you. What do you think can happen for a life that's defined by some kind of shooting? If this weren't my life, what would I imagine the story to be? As you think about people that that have walked through brokenness and tragedy or stories that you see on the news, we don't think about how is their life going to play out in 5 or 10 years. We think about how hard it is in the moment. But if you would have said back in 2006, Maria, I want you to tell me what you think life is going to look like in 5 or 10 or 18 years down the road, I never would have been able to imagine the beautiful things that God has done. And what happens when you embrace this place of challenge, of difficulty, of saying, hey, this isn't what I want, but I'm going to figure out how to work with it. We all have to do that. We all have to say, this is not going to be the definition of my life. And I'm not just going to see the bad things. I'm still going to purpose myself to see the good, even in this difficult place. And in the quick summary, and I get that this is a really quick summary, 10 minutes, it's not a lot of time to unpack things, but that's where I chose to walk, this place of saying, God, I know that you can do more than I can ask or think or imagine. I know that while this seems big to me, it's not big to you. I know that you have laid a track record of trust. I could see the way that He had led me through that loss previously. And I knew that He'd be the same yesterday, today, and forever. Everything He was in that moment and so much more. But it wasn't all about me. It's not about just the decisions I made. Certainly that makes an impact because I'm sure you've heard me say before, perspective is everything. Whatever we're looking for, that's what we're going to find. If I would have chosen to believe my life was over, I think God would have still done the same things. I would have had the same opportunities. I just wouldn't have been able to engage in them. So there is this place, and I write about it and to help you heal the partnership of our faith, the partnership of tools that we've learned are beneficial through psychology, so valuable when we're going through hard times. But also it's that place of grit. It's that determination to say, I am not going down like this. There is more for me and I will not be defined this way. And so if you're in a difficult place or if you know someone that is, I want to encourage you to embrace that partnership and to own your part in it because you do have power. You are not powerless in this circumstance. You still get to choose. You get to choose what you believe about yourself. You get to choose what you believe about your life. And I'm telling you, that makes all the difference. I love the life I live. I love what my life has become. I have a great husband, Dan. We have a wonderful family. Doesn't mean that we don't face our challenges and struggles. Just because I went through something hard in 2006 doesn't mean that life has been easy since. There are still hard days, but I think those hard days are the reminder to me to keep choosing to believe that God has more than I see in this moment, to keep choosing belief in myself that I can do this and that I can have a life that I love. We can love our lives even if we don't like the circumstances. I'm sure you've heard me say that before too. It's because I mean it. I've lived it. I've seen the positive proof of that. And I want to encourage you to look for that in your life. We all have places where we need healing. We all have places where we want the story to have a different ending. And sometimes it's not about the circumstance changing, it's about how we see the circumstance. That makes all the difference in the world. So, what's the place in your life where you need to see it from a different perspective? What's the place where you want more than what you see right now? Where you want to be able to say in 5 or 10 years, maybe 5 or 10 weeks, I see the good even in this place I didn't want. Go after that. Challenge yourself. Are you looking at it from a negative perspective? Are you saying there's still something here? I know there is, and I'm not going to be defined this way. I'm not going down like this. If you need help with that perspective, I'm here for you. We can walk this journey of having a comeback together. I'm all about it. I love to celebrate that in the lives of my family and my friends and my clients, the people that are in my sphere. I'd love for you to be one of those people. If this message resonates with you, send me a message. Marie@mariemonville.com. Let's talk about your comeback story. And then come on back next week because we're going to continue the conversation.